Hello, Aaron. How are you?
Doing well. How are you?
Good, good, good. What's been happening? There was a point in time where I used to know you as Fremen. Remember?
That is true.
Yeah.
That is true.
So what's
Yeah.
happened? Is this a
Since
name
then,
change, a signal of a transformation that happened recently, or not too recently?
yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. I guess it was like a few years since I changed it.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, Aaron's always been my legal name, my legal
Mm.
given name.
Mm.
And there was a time, about 12 years actually, where I went by this other name. Maybe even more than that. About maybe 12, 14 years. And basically, I just decided that I was at like this course, a men's intensive course, and decided that it was ultimately just like more extra, not really like actually serving me, and like just meant that every time I met someone, I had to like get them to understand how to pronounce my name, and like it was just like, and then I didn't learn their name because I was focusing on me, and just like I'm just like this is not useful. Let's just
Mm.
go with Aaron. Like people know what that is, so
Mm.
switch back.
Hmm. So what are you doing now? What kind of interesting things are you doing at the moment?
I mean, for like, I mean, I work as a software developer as my
Mm-hmm.
job, and that's useful and pays bills, and like I enjoy it a lot. But I wouldn't say it's a large part of my like identity. It's sort of just like it's a
Mm.
job that I like a lot. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm. So maybe we'll touch upon that at the moment. So what does it mean to be a software developer? There's a lot of people who seem to be wanting to get into this, right? And
hmm
but from the inside, I'm curious to know what is it like really day to day, and what does it involve?
Sure. I mean, it's really a broad. It's like it's such a broad field in a
Mm.
way. It's like, I mean, so it's very different for different people, different companies. Like even just where I work, like most people, I can't do the jobs that other software developers are doing,
Mm.
and they can't really do the job I'm doing. As at least not in the way with at least not with like the knowledge and like of quirks and things that I have.
Mm.
So it's very different for different people, and it's like some engineers are more like mathematical and like they
Mm.
just get down to the level. I'm more on the visual side and more like how making sure that everything works in a way that feels good for the person using it.
Mm.
So that's where I'm sort of situated on the spectrum
Mm. Is
of
that more like
engineering.
the what they call UX, user experience?
Yeah, so
Mm.
I'm a engineer who works very closely with user experience
Mm.
designers, and I'd say like day to day, like a lot of engineering is like you're probably going to be sitting with another person. Well, not sitting with another person. You're probably going to be like working on your own stuff for a while, talking with other people about ideas, rolling up a chair and being like, "Hey, what do you think about this?" Going back and forth, going back, implementing it. Pretty much at all levels, a lot of that happens. Looking at other people's code on a platform such as GitHub or GitLab, and like saying like, oh yeah, that looks good. Oh, did you think about this? Oh, this is good, but like it actually is not going to work with this other system we're building. We need to address the compatibility issues there. So it's a really it's a whole process of collaboration.
Hmm, that's interesting because there's this myth. Is it a mythology of the lone coder who's antisocial, just spending alone time coding? But it seems that in the real world of software production, it's very much collaborative, and you kind
Yeah,
of need people skills, right?
yeah, you surely do. And there's definitely room for like some like bits of like going off and like doing like a little bit where you're like get down into it. Um, but ultimately, like I think um, if you're just like doing all this stuff by yourself, like the thing with code is that like I write a piece of code and you're going to be using that code, and so we have to agree on what that looks like. Like what are the input that it takes, what are the output that it gives. Otherwise, it's just like kind of a mess.
Mm. So what languages do you code in?
Mainly JavaScript
Ah, okay.
and TypeScript, but that's like the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Do you do
yeah.
React? There seems to be
Yes,
this React
that's my
revolution happening.
that's my bread and butter pretty much.
Mm. How do you like it?
I'd say it's a great. I love it. I think it's great,
Mm.
and it's like it's always changing. So like how you did it when it first came out is completely different to how it works now, and like
Mm.
but like some of the core principles are pretty much still there, but like
So this is the
the
one that
syntax.
the JavaScript rewrites the DOM, right? The document object model in the
Yeah.
browser.
So how it works, like React.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's basically like um, the idea is that you're describing with the code what it should look like,
Mm-hmm.
which is called declarative.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like the opposite model would be you're saying how you're telling with the code how it should change from one state to the other.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be called imperative, and
Mm-hmm.
basically. One of them takes a lot more mental model because you have to think about all the different ways that it could change. If you want to go to like you have to think about with when you have to make if you're making the changes manually, you have to think about every possible state that it could be in before you wanted to get into the state you're actually in, and that's a lot of work. It's a lot to hold in your mind.
Mm-hmm. Whereas
Yeah, you have to. It's basically declarative. You think of like there's like 4 different states, and all you have to know is what they look like. You don't have to care about how it changes to them. Whereas imperative, you have to know about from every state to every other state, the lines between them. Like if it's like so it's like mathematically. I forgot what the math is, but it's like factorial or maybe where it's like the number of connections is. I think it's called a factor. I think it's the factorial. I don't remember much math. It's not my thing.
Right. It's a exponent. No, what do you call it? Like explosion
Yeah,
effect, combinatorial explosion.
something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So, look at this segue. So, how would you then apply this declarative versus imperative mental model to like the self-development we've been doing, right, in relation to desire and getting what we want? Yeah, it just clicked on me. There's something there, maybe. Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like I guess it's like the first thing I can think of is just like you could say, and I'm just thinking about this up as we go.
Yeah.
But the declarative is just like stating. It's like basically you could think of it as like stating exactly what you want.
Yep.
Right. Whereas like maybe the imperative is like more like you're stating like more like instructions. Like. Right. So like I have my bed in front of me right now. You can't see it, but it's there behind the computer, and it's like. Oh, like, like if you're like declaratively, you're like saying like, I want the bed to be 1 foot away from the wall. Whereas imperatively, I'd say like, move the bed 6 inches to the left,
Yeah.
And like, there's just like a kind of a simplicity of just like being able to say, and in that situation, they both kind of are very direct. But it's a good analogy for how code works.
Yeah. The way I could parse it with me is like imperative will be I want intimacy. Imperative will be so I need to do good in school so that I can go to a good college, so that I could get a good job, so that I can get a salary, so I can get all this stuff that will attract the women I want. But
like getting something to get the thing you actually want.
It's like all the steps but declarative will be I want this kind of intimacy. I want cuddles. I want talking deeply. I want this kind of sex.
I want breakfast the next day. I want to kiss you in public.
Yeah, it's really. Yeah, I'm still working on it, and maybe you are in terms of really clarifying desire. It seems so simple, but it's kind of hard work, right? What's your experience in that, in clarifying exactly what you want, and how has that changed the way you're becoming?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say, I had an interesting experience recently where I was at a type of workshop that was focused on like spirituality, shamanism, sexuality, desires in there, and we did a little exercise on like practicing like if you're gonna like if you find someone and you're both like attracted to each other and you want to like explore that, like having this conversation beforehand where you go over all these things like your sexual history, your STI status, your fears about having this, your desires for having it, your what would it mean, things. And I've done some parts of that before, but I've never done all of those things. I've never done the what would it mean part. And I haven't quite done the fears, but I've done most of the other ones. And it was funny because like we just paired up randomly just it was just an exercise. We weren't actually considering doing it. And like for the exercise, I was like, well, don't worry, honey, this would not mean anything. And like I will not like, there will be no attachment, and like we will like have a good time, and you know, you can do whatever you want the next day. And she was like, oh, interesting. I would say that I would want you to stay over and have breakfast the next day, and then like we would make some sort of like public affectionate gesture. And I was like, I sat there for a second. I was like, yes, me too. Like I was like, oh, like actually, like I actually feel into it. Like that actually feels really good. I would love to do that. Yeah, it's just like a moment of like, even where I'm like, I have a pretty good sense of myself and like what I want, I still kind of like went into this like a sort of pattern or like replaying like something that I like wanted at one time, or like thought that like, I don't know, I think I might have had some sort of correlation with like this conversation and like it like being about something that was just like about that specific moment and not about like having it mean something else after. So it was a good wake up experience in terms of like, oh, what do I actually want?
Yeah, it's very powerful. Yeah. And it's something that's always, it's a bit dynamic because it changes moment by moment. And yeah, and there's also that tension, like I don't want to be just fleeting from one thing to another without a sense of continuity, but at the same time I don't want to be fixed to one thing. And that, it's yeah. So you're based in San Francisco, Oakland, and
yeah, I live in Oakland, work in San Francisco.
Tell us more about Oakland. What is it like there?
Well, I live in a region of Oakland called the Jack London area, or the waterfront, and it's like a former like industrial warehouse area. And I shouldn't say former because actually just 2 blocks from me, there's like kind of like an epicenter for like fruit and like vegetable distribution.
Wow.
And so like you walk through there and like they just like spill crates of like food, like they're like literally just pile them on the street, and like you can we can't really even drive through because there's like trucks just like parked on the road. And like when you walk through, I kind of feel like I'm walking through a warehouse. I'm like, am I supposed to be here? And so it's like, yeah, it's really interesting. It has that, and like it has like a lot like down at the water, there's like, you know, it's like, it's pretty nice. It's a nice area, and it has like an old bar that they say that the writer Jack London, actually, that's why it's called Jack London. He actually wrote one of his books in this bar down there. And like it's a really interesting area. And it's like, I actually want to learn more about it. Like I know,
right.
Like I'm actually been thinking about this, trying to figure out like, oh, is there like a tour of like old Oakland,
right?
You know, and like, it reminds me of my old town Austin a little bit, in that it's like an old kind of like, especially East Austin, that was like, it's like kind of like gentrifying in a way, but it's not in every part. And like, yeah, it's interesting.
Is it still a working port, Oakland?
Yeah, the Port of Oakland is still a working port. You can see them off in the distance, these giant cranes.
Yeah, I see them when I ride the BART. It's like, whoa, what are these? Like,
yeah,
they're like the Star Wars thing.
See them.
Like the Star Wars.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, if I go on the roof of my building, I see the sunset, and they're like they're like a silhouette against the sunset.
Cool.
Yeah.
So and and then you spend time in San Francisco. So what kind of things are you doing outside of work? Because I always find, I don't know if it's still the case, like San Francisco is
Hmm.
like the epicenter of all this interesting stuff, like what we learned with
Hmm.
meditation, and then there's circling apparently going on there, and other stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I'd say like, well, recently I kind of got it. I've been thinking a lot about like work
Mm.
and like fulfillment and purpose and community. And basically, I've been thinking about how um, the role that like being part of a religion that your whole community was part of, like kind
Mm.
of like how that impacted you as a person, and how I feel like a lot of like the drive right now for people to be like work, like be in your purpose, or like be like do something fulfilling, and like
Mm.
put it's like it feels like I have this overall suspicion that like while there are certainly people that are like modern priests or modern like that sort of role where their work is their
Mm.
purpose. It's like people who are doing like like life coaching or like things like that. Maybe I think actually like for most people, it's actually there's like a healthiness to having work as a form of fulfillment that is separate from something else a like a religion that you do like once a week that like you have community around. And so
Mm. That's interesting.
I went to like a synagogue, and like because technically
Mm.
like my dad's mother was Jewish, and like I had some familiarity with that, and like to see what that was like. And like um I've been trying to do more like, and I think it doesn't have to be religion. I think like it could
Mm.
be like you join like a volunteer organization. So I've been looking into doing that, which is sort of like the things that like um maybe like more permanent, maybe not more, it doesn't have to be more permanent, but just like something that's like a group of people that like you don't, maybe you're not friends, but you're like have like community and like
Mm.
a shared like understanding around, and that you see regularly. And yeah, I've just sort of been like thinking about that, and like seeing like, oh, how can I have that in my own life?
Mm. Yeah, yeah. I've been. Have you heard of this thing called Game B? I've dived deep in
Game,
Game
what's it
B.
called?
Game B.
Like I'm playing a game.
Yeah, it's like everything we're doing now is Game A.
Okay.
Like in terms of the economics, the politics. It's basically industrialized society.
Hmm.
That's Game A, and it's full of rivalrous dynamics. So we're all
Hmm.
competing against each other, and
Yeah.
because we're just taking care of me, my family, we just don't worry about all the externalities, and that's why the
Hmm.
planet is being destroyed because no one's taking thinking of the whole thing,
Yeah. Yeah.
and if we plot the trajectory, it's gonna end in disaster. So there's a lot of
Hmm.
people thinking, how can we play a different game?
Yeah.
And and one of the things that's the key principles, at least my interpretation of it, is first there's a need for each individual to be their full self, sovereign. So we're not
Hmm.
easily swayed by movements and ideologies. But at the
Yeah.
same time, we need to achieve coherence as a whole planet. And and in the same way that like an ideal not, a good metaphor would be like the body. So like my
Hmm.
eyes are not my ears, so they're different, but they're not really
Yeah.
competing against each other. Like my eye is not
Right.
trying to turn my ear into an eye, but they work together. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it seems that in the current system we have, if I'm, let's just use politics. If I'm progressive, I wanna convert everyone to be a progressive, and if I'm conservative, I just want everyone to be conservative. So instead of with the body, each organ remains sovereign in itself, but it works together as a whole, even though technically they're competing for the same resources, right? Like there's limited sugar in the body.
Right.
In fact, cancer is like when one of the organs just say, "Fuck everyone else. I'm just gonna multiply and to the detriment of the whole body, right? I'm just gonna get all the
Yeah.
nutrients, expand myself, and then kills the whole organism. So basically, that's like a quick idea, because game is just like placeholder. It's not really a movement, and one of the things people are looking at is this. It's like a religion that's not a religion. It's like, how can we get the best, we call it psychotechnology of coherence, but mix it with what we learn in science. Do you know what I mean? Like there's because one of the key aspects of religion is the communitas, the community, and then the support of each other.
Yeah, the community and the ritual.
Yeah, and but where it failed was, or not failed, but it's just a different domain, is that there's a lot of we could say supernatural way of looking at physics, but then there's we can use the science to experiment, to probe what's there, but mix it. So not choose one over the other, but mix it. So it's like a religion that's not a religion. And there's some really interesting conversations in this topic. But I find it interesting that you yourself is getting into that same line of thinking. And what led you to this focus on finding that space for ritual and
it's a good question. I mean, yeah, it's like I'm like, yeah, what did lead me to that? I'm trying to remember almost. I know I was definitely well, there was a few years where I lived with a lot of people. Like between 6 to 12 people in a house. And now I'm living with one person who's the best roommate ever. We actually have the same birthday, and we're like same birthday, fairly compatible in terms of like how we like to do things. So that's awesome. But it's a lot less people, and so I don't have that built-in sense of community. And then I was thinking, there was like a little bit of that, and then there was just like, I don't know, there's times when I would work like on side projects on like the weekends, and then like I stopped doing that, and I'm like, oh wow, like I have this time on the weekend. The side project thing just like burnt me out, like, and didn't really, it was not a thing that I would want to sustain. And so basically thinking about all that, sorry, I just got really thirsty. I'm like, what happened to that tea I had? Anyway, am I right? Where was I? So thinking about that, and then I don't know, I was like on a plane, and I was literally on a plane to some city somewhere, I think maybe Philadelphia, and I was sitting in this row, and there was two people in this row, and they were somehow, for some reason, they were sitting on the aisle seat and the window seat, and I came in, and they were talking, and they were like, sit between us. And I was like, okay. So I sat between them, and the whole time they were like having this conversation over me, which I enjoyed. It was a great conversation. And I'm like, oh wow, like, are you like cousins or something? And they're like, oh, that's funny you say that. They're not. They were like, oh, no, we're not related. Our parents are just like really good friends, and like we've known each other our whole lives, and we go to the same university now, and it just sort of felt like they like had a real strong sense of community, and like they happened to be Jewish, and so I think that was probably partly the reason I went to the synagogue. It's like my first experiment. But I don't know, it's like, I think I grew up in lots of different communities, and like I always kind of had a sense of like wanting to feel more belonging, but like not quite feeling like I fit in all the way. Like when I was really little, like we lived in an exurb, and there was like a neighborhood, and like most people lived like really close to each other. You could see each other's houses, but then we lived a little bit further away. So I was like a little bit outside of it. And it would always be like, oh, I had to like leave a little bit earlier to get home in time, like to ride my bike home. And like, I felt like I've always been kind of like in like odd situations. Like I actually lived in Australia for 6 years when I was younger.
Is it in Gold Coast, like, in Brisbane?
Yeah. Yeah. And well, actually not south of the Gold Coast, in New South Wales. but close to the Gold Coast. And so like I was like American, and then I was like in Australia, and then like I came back, and like it was like this weird experience for like I was in high school, but like I had kind of like an Australian accent, but like not really, and like I like didn't quite understand American culture, but like I never really got fully immersed in Australian culture. And then like I like even and like I was like, oh, like I feel like those like army brats. But then like I met some of those people, and their experience was like completely different than mine, and like I didn't quite feel like I fit in there. Right. And so like I had this like I was like, oh, like I'm like kind of like don't quite feel like I'm quite in any of these boxes. And it was funny because like before then, my parents actually like they met in a TM community, transcendental meditation.
That's
and
cool.
So they were really into like Vedas or like Sanskrit, and like eating like vegetarian, and like I so like my memories of like my one of my earliest memories of my dad is like drinking like turmeric milk
before it became a rage, right?
Yeah. And it's so funny because like I was literally, and like it's so funny because like I was literally like there's a while ago I was like talking to someone, and she was like 10 years younger than me, and she was like, I hate all these white people drinking turmeric milk, and she's like from India, and I was like, literally in my head I'm like, I was drinking it before you were born. So like like I get it, but like it's like but it like it doesn't it feels so like part of me, like it's like it's just like interesting thing how culture like works like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. Must be interesting how, yeah, maybe that's why you and Ariel have a different.
Yeah, my sister.
Yeah, your sister have a different orientations because your parents were into TM. Did the two of you ever get into it, or is it a different?
When I was younger, I actually got trained and got a mantra, and I mean, I was like under 10 when I first did it. I don't remember how old, but it was definitely less than 10. And I don't remember what it was. Like I don't remember how to TM. I don't remember how to do TM anymore. I can do some like Zen. I know how to do Zen meditation. But yeah, I can't remember it. But it's like it's in like the history, the background.
It's there. It's in the It's the unconscious.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, before I forget, I've been noticing that you've been making like very, how would I say it? Very packed statements on the polarity that's happening in the U.S. in terms of politics. You've been making some nuanced statements about being progressive and that. Would you like to say more on that? Like, yeah, what's going on in the U.S.? It's quite interesting. Yeah.
Oh man, there's so many things going on. So many things related to culture and politics and all this stuff, and it's very interesting to me. God, I'm not even sure where to begin.
Maybe
let's see.
I read somewhere that this, I don't know who said it, but this like what did they say? Politics is downstream from culture. So it's in a way, if you work on the culture, the politics will take care of itself. So everyone's now working on the culture bit instead of just the politics. Yeah,
that makes sense to me. I think that there's a lot of like, I mean, I'll just like choose like one avenue. It's kind of all related in a way, but it's all like, I remember when Me Too first started. So I think a lot of things that people forget is the actual why is the phrase Me Too? Like, why is that the phrase that created this movement, right? Well, it actually comes from research into shame. And if you ever read Brene Brown, the way to fight shame is with the simplest way to fight shame is with someone else to say Me Too, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So like there was all these people who had all these, probably primarily women, who had all this like shame around an experience they had,
Yeah.
right? And so some wise person, I feel like I learned who this person was. I think she was actually Black, but she actually, I might be wrong there, but she came up with the phrase "Me Too," and then like it took a long time to work up, and then eventually it exploded, and this huge thing happened. And there was a moment somewhere in there where it went from removing shame from an experience, which was very liberating, to this idea of retribution and like killing and basically a mob of destruction. And it's like I think that it's always good for people to share what happened to them, and I think that the danger is in sharing like, oh, like I had this experience, it didn't go well. And if you read a lot of these accounts, the person who originally shares, it's from what I've read, it's never been like, and you guys should all kill this person. They've been like, here's something that happened. Here's what happened to me.
Yep.
I didn't do this right. Like there's some responsibility I have here. And then it like morphs into this whole thing that happens. And if you ever, and my belief is that the entire reason that I think that this is just actually repeating a cycle where then the sex gets shamed again, it goes underground again, it becomes sneaky again, and then it becomes hidden again, and people get hurt again, and then victims are created, rescuers love that, and perpetrators will happen again. So that's my take on it. And I think that ultimately there has to be more, you want to have a situation where people can, I think being open with things is going to lead to more healing than other things.
Yeah, it makes, when you were talking about that, it reminded me of two things. One is that Nietzsche quote that be careful when you fight evil that you don't become the evil. If you look at the abyss too long, the abyss looks back at you. You know what I mean? Like, and the second thing is there's this guy called Daniel Schmachtenberger, and he has this on Rebel Wisdom channel in YouTube. He talked about weaponization of sense making.
Yeah.
And he talks about even the most noble thing that humans have can be weaponized. So he talks about like what is more noble than sacrificing my life for a cause? But that, and we have seen that has been weaponized by some leaders to use people's devotion for their own means. You know what I mean? So even empathy can be weaponized. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I've seen it happen.
It's also like it's also in a way I think why two people like Donald Trump and Kanye West, like why Kanye West says he likes something about Donald Trump. I think it's because there's a way that like people are kind of like unconsciously have a hunger for like just being their full selves. And we have a culture where it's like, no, you have to be good. You have to be a good person. You have to be a nice person. And Kanye is just like, I'm who I am.
Yeah. I really like his video.
You know? And I think that's why people actually, it's like no one actually, like, people don't even care what Trump does. They like, there's a certain level of like, oh, this person is being exactly who he is.
Yeah.
And that's what they like about it. Because they're like, oh, like society says I can't be who I am. And it's not even that society thinks it's saying that. It's not even that. It may maybe not even be saying that, but their perception of it is that. You know?
Yeah.
The perception of that.
Yeah, and I would even go further with what you said. It's not even about being good in the real sense. It's about signaling that I'm good. There's a lot of that happening in especially in social media. Oh, I want to signal I'm woke.
Virtual signaling. But it's like I was reading a long article about this kind of stuff, and like there's a quote in there that said journalists are more concerned with being on the right side of culture than in the truth.
Mm. Yeah, even universities. That's why yeah, so I've been looking at the work of John Haidt,
Hmm.
and about how yeah,
Yeah.
universities. What is the telos of the university? Is it truth or is it to change the world? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the university I went to recently, they've changed their mission statement is to change the world. But the problem with that is who decides how to change the world in what way? Is it the
Hmm.
university management? You know. So I think me personally, I think
Yeah.
university should be they should lay out all the possibilities, lay out all the thinking out there, and let the students meander through them instead of choosing. Oh, this is the way you should think, which is what's happening now. It's so sad, you know. Like
Yeah. And
I
it's
see.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's almost like a like you have to go through these like stages of like development or like learning
Mm.
of like I don't know. It's like and maybe you don't always have to, but like there's just like levels of like I, I mean, it's hard to explain, but like I think I feel like I've changed my views on things, but I feel like
Yep.
I've always at the same time I feel like I've had the same view the whole time,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
and it's like um yeah, I'm like how do I say it? It's like um just like the start of like you have to I guess it's probably a best one way to bring it up is like you have to like you have like sex and it's like everyone's having terrible sex, right?
Yeah.
Because no one's it's like just like it's shitty and like
Yeah.
no one's listening and no one's communicating and it's terrible and then like someone like comes up with the idea of like enthusiastic consent, right? And it's like okay, like which is like okay, like you're like yes, I want that. Like, and
Yes, hundred
everything is like
percent.
super like, oh yes, all the way. And like you're like verbally, explicitly saying everything you want, and like you're like in there, and then you're learning things, and you're like, oh, like things can feel different, and like I can ask for things, and I can say no when I want. And like it's like a learning experience, and like, but like that's not the end goal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
the end goal is like not that at all. Like I think it's like I almost have this fear that like people are going to think that like they have to do that all the time or they're
Yeah.
like not doing it right.
Mm, mm, mm,
And
mm,
I
mm,
think
mm.
in the end, like what you really want is an experience where like you have attention and 99% of what you're doing is nonverbal,
Yeah.
right? Where you have attention on the other person, you have attention on yourself and what actually feels good. You have attention on like, oh, do I actually feel any sensation in this, or do I just think the person looks hot? And
Mm, mm,
um,
mm, mm.
there's like a way that you can say like you just like you can just go through you can go towards something and you can feel like what's happening. It's like
Mm.
and if you've ever done any type of like partner dancing, like that's what you're doing,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? You know, um, and I think that someone described it once as like these the kind of modality of like saying everything is like kind of like a healing modality
Mm.
versus like a more like sensual modality or like erotic modality of relating.
Mm.
And um, like I wonder if there's I don't know if this is true, but like I'm like oh like will there be a person out there who is like afraid to say like I I don't want to like I just want to have this experience like I if I'm having sex and I'm crying like and the person's crying like and even I know this because of people have told it women have told me this like if
Mm.
I'm crying like if even you just like asking me am I all right can take me out of an experience I'm having
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and
Got
like
it. Yeah. Yeah.
there's like a way that like
Mm.
you actually have to be able to be like oh that crying is something that she wants to experience
Yep. 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 I have
and
the.
she knows it and you know it and like you could just go through it
Mm. Mm.
um and there's actually a healing there that can happen even
Yeah.
um yeah and like yeah, you have to fucking pay attention.
Yeah, no, yeah, I have a similar story with that. Like, I was seeing someone here a few years back, and we were in the car, right?
Hmm.
And we were arguing about something, and she just
Yeah.
went into this full meltdown in front of me.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
because we have our training, I just held it. I held
Yeah.
my masculine.
Boom.
I didn't try to fix her. I didn't try to. I just absorbed it. I didn't flee. I just stayed
Hmm.
there until
Boom.
it ran out. And then she
Hmm.
stopped. And then when she stopped, I just said, "Okay, I'll go now, and we'll talk tomorrow." So I went, and then she called me the next day. I said,
Hmm.
"Thank you so much for just for receiving that, without."
Yeah.
And I really needed that. I just really, really needed to run it out of my system, and I felt you were there. You were holding me, and you were just listening. Yeah, literally, I didn't say anything.
Boom.
I
Boom.
didn't try to defend myself. I just absorbed everything she was saying because I was feeling that she needed to run it through, and she was so grateful,
Hmm.
and we became closer after that.
Yeah.
Whereas in my previous life, I would have go, "Oh, fuck that! I'm not gonna get near that. That's scary." You
Hmm.
know what I mean? Or, "Oh,
Yeah.
I need to fix this. I need to buy her flowers, and I need to stop this crying now or this rage. I need to." But yeah, it's interesting. Like all
Yeah.
these subtleties, right? Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. It's like the idea of like, and I don't know what she was saying, but maybe she was saying like, "Get the fuck out, leave. Why the fuck are you still
Yeah,
here?"
yeah. Why are you like that?
You
And
know,
then, yeah,
and it's like that idea of like the skillful violation,
yeah,
where
right,
you
right,
like
yeah.
can like you know that there's like the words, and then there's like the thing that you're like, oh, there's
Behind
actually
the
something
words.
more here that like saying here is actually the right thing to do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's true. Like one big secret that men don't know is women are always testing us, and I think it's built in evolution wise, right? Like I want to
Hmm.
test if this guy can help my children survive, right? So I'm gonna test, can he hold, if he can't hold me when I'm crying, then how the hell is he gonna protect my children? You know what I mean?
Boom.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. um
Mm.
I think we reach a peak.
Yeah, I guess we kind of did.
Yeah,
It's funny because like at one point, part of me is like yeah, like I'd actually like I'm really enjoying this and like would
yeah,
love to talk more, but I can see that too. It does feel like some sort of peak for
yeah. I
sure.
mean, we could do another one, and it doesn't have to
Yeah.
be a one-time deal.
Yeah.
I'm just feeling if there's anything I need to ask you. I guess
Yeah.
maybe just say, yeah. If there's anything else, I think I'm cool with
Yeah.
what I need to ask. But if you want to say something that I haven't brought up,
I feel like that's a good peak. I'd love to talk more. I'd love to talk more about culture.
oh yeah, we could do
Maybe if we do this
another.
again.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I feel like we probably have a whole other one just about like all on cultures and like how that all works. It's pretty cool stuff.
Yeah. Have you read the book Righteous Indignation? That was interesting.
No. Oh, you know what? Actually, one thing I want to mention. I thought of this when you were talking about Game B. There's a
Right.
book called Sacred Economics.
Ah, yeah, yeah.
If you've
Eisenstein.
all heard of it?
Charles
Have you read it?
Eisenstein? No, I haven't read it, but
Yeah.
I've listened
It's
to him talk.
so good.
Mm.
Yeah, it's really good. I definitely recommend it.
Mm, mm, mm. Yeah, we could talk more about that, and yeah, it's an interesting field. Like, it's too
Yeah.
bad. Like, Andrew Yang dropped out. It would have been interesting if
All right. Well, technically he's
universal
still on the
basic
ballot in
income.
California, so
Mm.
I could technically still vote for him,
Yeah, yeah.
if I wanted to.
I
But
mean,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, it would be interesting to see because some countries have tried experimented with UBI and it seems to be positive.
Hmm.
But I don't know if it can scale. I don't know. But it's a good thing to discuss.
Yeah.
I think at least.
Yeah.
Cool. All
For
right.
sure.
Let's
Okay.
spin that. Let's spin that for now. And
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, and that was an hour. That's a good amount of time.
Oh, is it? I don't even notice.
Yeah, I just
Anyway,
noticed it's been an hour.
cool. Well, thank you,
Yeah.
Aaron. And
Yeah.
enjoy the museum you're going to.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
learned a lot, hopefully.
Cool.
Adios.
See ya.
Ciao.
Ciao.